Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webcast. My name is Andy Deal, and I'm your host today. This is the second webcast that we've had on this topic in 2 weeks, and there's over 100 people registered. So obviously, this is a very important topic that everyone cares about. So today with us, Anthony Rodriguez will once again explain to everyone how to prepare for the upcoming change in the Autodesk subscription model, and that's coming up very quickly here in about 2 weeks on February 1st. But before we kick it over to Anthony, I do want to remind the audience that at any time that you have questions, please type them into the Q&A control panel, and we will get to them in the Q&A session. And I encourage everyone to give us lots of questions. This is what this session is here for, is to get all of your questions answered. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and transfer the presentation over to Anthony.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, and thank you everyone for joining today. Like Andy said, we've had a big turnout to these events. It's amazing that we started talking about this a year ago, and as of today, we have one more week before the transition actually takes place. So I appreciate you all attending, and like Andy said, I encourage you to ask questions and encourage you to stay until the end. In the last session, we had at least 20 questions that came in. After talking to some of the people that attended afterwards, a lot of the value they got in the session was actually hearing the questions and the answers that came back. So definitely ask questions if you have them, and stay to make sure you hear the answers at the end. We will be sure to answer all the questions that do come in today. So I want to also introduce you to a couple other gentlemen on my team that are joining me today to help with the Q&A. I have Rich Sanchez. A lot of you may have worked with Rich. Rich works on the Lifeline team. So as if you have questions that you have on products and you call in, it's likely that you talk to Rich, and Rich will be one of the people that help you resolve those questions. And if you haven't yet, I encourage you to call in and introduce yourself, talk to Rich. I also have Joe Meridian, who's one of our subscription specialists. Those of you on subscription, again, have probably talked to Joe. Joe's role is to make sure that your questions are answered on subscription. You know the benefits of subscription, and you're using those benefits that you pay for on a regular basis. So they'll be helping me with questions later on today. But again, I encourage you to reach out to us anytime if you have questions. So really, the agenda today is to talk about the subscription model that Autodesk is going to start, like I say, starting February 1st. It's just right around the corner here. I want to go through, explain the facts, and then talk about what we see in terms of trends customers doing as a next step to prepare for the change that's coming, and then we'll end with the Q&A and answering the questions that all of you asked. So the first thing that everyone has probably heard about and needs to be aware of is that Autodesk is transitioning their license model to a subscription model. Okay, and the change that's happening is changing how you buy new licensing. Okay, so as we move forward, the options to acquire new licenses will change to strictly a subscription model, and we'll talk about what that means in more detail in a second here. The first thing I want to make sure everyone understands is that most of you are maintenance subscription customers. Okay? Maintenance subscription means you purchase the license, you own the rights to use that license for the life of you owning the license. You own the rights to use it. It does not terminate. You can continue to use it. And maintenance subscription allows you to pay an annual fee to keep that license up to date. So as new releases become available, you get those licenses. Those of you that are on this model, and again, that is a majority as I look through the list here, that model will not change. What will be more important than ever is that you continue to maintain that maintenance subscription, renew those subscriptions on time, because not renewing them on time will end the license. So you want to make sure you get them in on time, and we're starting to see a lot of our customers lock those contracts in for multiple years, so they lock in the current rates that exist. But again, the first thing you need to know is that model is not changing. There will be no disruption as Autodesk changes a new license acquisition model to subscription. No disruption to customers that have maintenance subscription. Those licenses will continue to run the way they are. But again, it will be important for you to renew those licenses on time. And if you're interested in extending or having longer-term contracts, definitely reach out to our team. So when you look at the subscription model Autodesk is going to, there's, as we talk to customers, and a good percentage of customers that are buying new licenses today are starting to choose to purchase the subscription model. Today through February 1st, you have an option to still buy Perpetual with maintenance subscription or buy the new model, subscription model. And when I look at our license sales over about the last 6 months, about 30%, 3 out of 10 licenses sold, 3 out of 10 customers are choosing to purchase the desktop subscription model. And you might ask yourself why, and these are some of the trends we're starting to see. One is, just the cost of entry on a license is more attractive. You're paying an annual fee for that license over an annual fee to keep that license running. When you stop paying, it no longer runs. So customers that have workforce that kind of grows and shrinks based on projects that they have, that license model makes sense. As a user, it gives you some benefits in terms of personalization. All of us can probably think of personal accounts that you have, maybe apps on your phone that you log into, and it starts to remember things about you. The system starts to personalize itself based on tools you're used to using, habits that you have, and you'll start to see that as you use a subscription type model. Autodesk will, with this model, be able to enhance products on a more frequent basis. So in the past, you've seen big annual releases that are more of an event to upgrade and get your users trained and up and running. We'll start to see in this new model Autodesk roll out technology in a more frequent basis. So if there's small updates, perhaps every month or maybe every week at some point, software will be updated, and upgrades will be a less disruptive thing that happen. They'll just kind of happen, and you'll be aware of new features and capabilities that exist. And then just when you subscribe, you have immediate access to software. So it's fairly quick in terms of getting up and running. And those are just a handful of the benefits, and we'll talk about some more later on. I want to make sure everyone's clear, though, on what exists today, okay? Because we are talking about this transition that will start, and it does not start until February 1st, okay? So there's still a little over a week to go before this transition starts. What I have listed here are all of the options as a customer you have today to acquire licensing. Okay, and I'm going to start up on the top. The top 3 are the subscription options that exist for customers. Okay, so the first option is desktop subscription. And desktop subscription means that you can acquire any license, and you pay for that license based on the term you want to use the license. Okay, so if you have a user and a user wants to use a license for 3 months, 1 year, or 3 years, you basically pay for that period of time, and when you stop paying, that license is no longer available to the user. The second option that exists for subscription is a network subscription, which some of you on the session here today, I can see, already have network licenses for your Perpetual licenses. Okay, network subscription works exactly the same. It uses a FlexLM license manager. The server manages the license checkout and check-in as users are accessing the license. You pay an additional fee for this type of subscription, but it allows you to now share that license amongst multiple users. And again, the server will make sure that only the right number of users are activating or using that license at a time. The third option that exists is cloud subscription, and this only exists on some of the more some of the newer technologies that Autodesk has made available. Tools like simulation, PLM, collaboration for Revit, Buzzsaw. These are tools that exist in the cloud. They run in the cloud, data is stored in the cloud, and again, you pay based on the length of time you're going to use the technology, but the software and data is actually stored in the cloud. The final type of license down on the bottom here is what most of us are familiar with today, and that is a maintenance subscription option. Okay? That option allows you to purchase a license that you own the rights to use really for forever, and you have the option to add this maintenance subscription, which keeps that license up to date. Okay, there's again, that's what the majority of us have today, and that's where the biggest change will happen. This option on the bottom will no longer be available for a lot of products beginning February 1st, and we'll show some of the dates in just a second here. But as a customer, you have these 4 options today, and really based on your circumstance, different options may be right for you. You can also have a mixed environment. So some customers have some cloud as an example and some maintenance. Some customers have cloud, some desktop subscription, and some maintenance. So there's nothing wrong with having a mixed environment either, and that's where our team can help you make sure that you have the right plan as you go forward. Okay, so we've talked about maintenance subscription. The benefits of maintenance subscription is you acquire your license, you own it for the life, for basically as long as you can use it, and your hardware will run it. You have access to all the latest releases of software. You get additional licensing rights. So as an example, if you're traveling worldwide, you can use licenses in different countries. You have the option to use some Autodesk Cloud credits that exist with maintenance subscription for storing data. And then you get access to some email type support directly with Autodesk when you have maintenance subscription. Desktop subscription has similar support options. Like I say, some of the benefits our customers see though are the lower cost of entry, the ability to use licenses like this when you have a workforce that may be temporary. You can buy these types of licenses for those employees. So it makes it easy to kind of scale up and down the licensing as and when you need it. And then the last option, which is cloud, which runs in the cloud. The software data is actually stored and running in the cloud. Again, I see some of you on the line that use tools like collaboration for Revit, Buzzsaw, and those are examples of cloud services that Autodesk has that allow you to just, makes it easy to collaborate with customers that are vendors, other employees that may not be in the same location as you, so you're not having to email data all over. Okay, but what is changing, and I want to make sure this is clear, what is changing is this maintenance subscription option. For new licenses, maintenance subscription will no longer be available beginning February 1st. And February 1st is the first date that Autodesk is applying this to what they call their individual products. Okay, so think of products like AutoCAD, Revit, Civil 3D, Inventor. These are non-suite products. So individual products, AutoCAD LT would apply. These are products that are individual, they're non-suite products, and beginning February 1st, you will no longer be able to purchase those licenses, new licenses, in a perpetual manner and add maintenance subscription. Okay. Starting February 1st, for those of you who have maintenance subscription contracts, again, your install base, your environment will not change. There will be no disruption. You'll continue to use those licenses the way you're used to. You'll be able to continue to maintain those licenses by renewing your subscription. What will be more important than ever, though, is to make sure you renew those licenses on time and not go past your expiration date. Once you're past your expiration date, those licenses will no longer be subscribed, and your only option to true up will be to move to the desktop subscription model. So you want to make sure you get your maintenance subscription renewed on time. You'll want to look at locking in the contracts you have today for maybe a multiple year option, so you lock in the rates and are assured you have the current model as you go forward. And then the second date here is August 1st, and August 1st is a date when the maintenance subscription will retire for all products, including the suite products. So beginning August 1st, product design suite, factory design suite, building design suite, all of the other products that exist will no longer be available to be purchased in a perpetual manner with maintenance subscription. Okay, so that is really the big change. And after August 1st, your options will be the three options we discussed earlier. They're all subscription options. They all give you the same feature capabilities that you're used to today. They operate similar to the way you're used to operating your software today. But the way you pay for and acquire those licenses will be different. So really, I want to pause and just kind of talk about what we see customers doing with this kind of information. Now that we know the maintenance subscription option will no longer be available, there's really a few trends that we see customers doing as we work with the customers that we have. The first thing we see a lot of customers doing is we see customers starting to network their licenses. Okay, and I want to talk about when this can apply to a customer. Networking licenses give you the ability, first off, to share licenses amongst a large group of people. Okay, so typically when you have more than 3 users, it may make sense for you to apply networking to your perpetual licenses so that you can share those licenses with multiple users. There's a couple examples of that. One example may be where you have users that are using licenses part-time. Less than 60% is kind of a good percentage to look at. You may have, let's say, 10 users that are part-time users. By networking those 10 licenses, you'll be able to support potentially up to 15 people. And that is more cost-effective than adding 10 or 5 additional licenses to support 15. Okay, so it allows you to share licenses with many more people. The other benefit is if you have, let's say, 10 AutoCAD users and maybe 1 Factory Design Suite Ultimate. And Factory Design Suite's used occasional. Maybe there's 1 person using it today, but you think that maybe 2 or 3 people may benefit from Factory as you move forward. You may consider networking your Factory Design Suite so that that 1 license is available to others as they start to take advantage of the capabilities in Factory Design Suite. If you have multiple locations, networking gives you the ability to sometimes benefit from different time zones. So we have customers with offices perhaps in LA. I'm thinking of a customer who has an office in LA and Dallas. They have an office in Singapore and in the UK. And by networking their licenses and applying networking rights to use the licenses throughout the world, it gives them the ability to share a smaller set of licenses with a large pool of people. And they're able to take advantage of that because while we're asleep at night not using licenses, people in other parts of the world are awake and be productive. So those are some of the reasons we see. The final reason really is becoming more popular as organizations like the BSA. These are organizations that are organizations out there that make sure all software, not just Autodesk, but Microsoft. These companies run audits within larger organizations to make sure they're compliant with software. As that happens more and more, we see customers choosing to go to the network option, which is really the safest model to make sure you're in compliance with software because you're not relying on people to uninstall and install licenses based on the license agreement, the server is really monitoring and controlling and making sure that only the right number of people are using the right quantities of software that exists. So those are some of the reasons for networking. The other thing that we see common recently as we anticipate this change is customers starting to think about and planning longer term, looking at for the next 12 months, 6 to 12 months, am I going to be hiring users? Am I going to be downsizing my team? If you kind of think about what your plan is over the next 6 to 12 months, it may make sense to either add additional perpetual licenses today, so you bring on these additional seats in the same format, with the same license model that you already have in place. If you're anticipating reducing license count, it may make sense to look at doing that today and maybe networking a smaller set of licenses in your environment. Other customers have been evaluating new technology like Vault, AutoCAD Electrical, Factory I brought up, maybe different collaboration for Revit, additional higher level building design suites. If you're in an evaluation mode today, it may make sense for you to look at adding those perpetual licenses now rather than acquiring those in a subscription format later on. And those of you that are using older licenses, older versions of software, again, you'll want to make sure you understand the implications of that and consider bringing those current today rather than waiting until you have more limited options as we go forward. And then the last thing we see customers doing is really looking at the licenses they have, and if they have individual products like AutoCAD or AutoCAD Mechanical, or Revit on its own, the individual products, and they want to have more time to maybe plan and acquire additional perpetual licenses. Remember, suites will continue to be available through August 1st. Until August 1st, at August 1st, you'll no longer be able to purchase suites. So if you want more time, we see a lot of customers considering upgrading their individual products to a suite product so that they have suites in their environment, and if they need licenses in the next 5 to 6 months, they can continue to add them on a perpetual basis because they have suites today. In addition to the trends we see customers taking advantage of, we also as a company have had several offers available to customers to help with this transition. The first offer, and this is through the end of January, January 29th, is a financing option. So customers who choose to acquire new licenses, upgrade to a suite, maybe cross-grade, move from one type of product to a different type of product, maybe buy some training or kind of revamp their skills with the new technology, can finance those purchases at 0% for 12 months, and there's no payment on that for the first 4 months. So we see several customers taking advantage of that. As I mentioned earlier, those of you that are on a maintenance subscription contract today, consider looking at your contract. One, make sure it's renewed on time, but also look at the options to extend that contract out for multiple years. You can extend those contracts out up to 3 years, and that just protects, gives you the rates that exist today, and assures you that you'll have the same abilities, same license model as we go forward for the next few years. Today, it then actually ends real soon here. It ends in a couple of days, January 22nd, which is this Friday. Those of you that have licenses that have expired within the last year, 365 days, have the ability to re-up or add maintenance to those licenses without a penalty. So typically there would be a late fee applied to bring them current. Autodesk is currently waiving late fees, so you simply pay the maintenance subscription fee and your license will be brought current. And then the last thing, for those of you who want to go ahead and migrate or move over to the desktop subscription, the new subscription model that Autodesk has several discounts available to acquire new licenses in that format. And again, those are through the end of this week. So I want to end with just, you know, making sure everyone understands the discussion we had today. Like I said, we want to take some time to answer all the questions that you have. I know there's some questions that have already started coming in, so we're going to start that. But I do want to thank all of you for attending, and me, Joe, and Rich will be available here. We're going to open up the line so that we can start answering the questions we have. So don't hesitate to continue asking. Again, we're going to be here until we get all these questions answered. And if you have any questions at all about this and you're more comfortable speaking with a representative, definitely I encourage you to call our office, talk to me, Joe, Rich, any of your account representatives that you probably know, and we're all prepared to help you and advise you and guide you on what the best options are for you as you go forward. I'll turn it back over to you, Andy.
All right, thank you, Anthony. So as Anthony mentioned, there are some questions that have came in during his presentation, but please, again, feel free to type in your questions right now into the Q&A panel, and we'll stay here and address all of those questions. So the first questions that came in from Stephen is that maintenance subscription will be maintained, but what would the benefit be of locking in current rates for additional licenses versus adding licenses after the change when they are needed? So why should you add license now in a sense versus waiting?
So the perpetual license model, which is available now, is better, more cost-effective for continued use. If you see that you're going to have additional users that need to use these tools permanently, and by permanently I mean over 3 or 4 years, it'll be better for the company as just on a cost perspective at buying a perpetual license now, just because it will be cheaper for you to maintain, you know, in the long run. You know, if you are going to expect that you need to hire an additional user for less than 3 years, it will make sense for you to adopt the desktop subscription model in the future. But for permanent use, perpetual licenses are much more cost effective.
Yeah, and also I want to add to that, Joe, is if you prefer perpetual licenses, after the deadline, they're just not available, right? So the only option you have would be desktop subscription. So some customers do prefer that. They want something that they own and have for the rest of time. So if that's your preference, then you have to act now, because that option simply won't be available after the deadline.
Absolutely.
All right, so I have another question. It's kind of similar in the same line from Kimball. Let's re-explain this so make sure that everyone understands. In August, are you saying that my existing maintenance subscription will be terminated?
Absolutely not. So every customer that has an existing maintenance subscription can continue to renew that. Autodesk is not going to take that away. So yes, after August, you will still have the option to renew your maintenance subscription. You just will not have the option to purchase new licenses with maintenance subscription. But for everything that you own, you can definitely continue to renew that as long as it's on time.
Great, thanks, Joe. And the second part of Kimball's question is in the line of what we talked about in the previous question is, you know, we can continue with our existing subscription, but we'll be unable to buy any more additional perpetual licenses, and that is correct. All right, so I have another question that came in from Sophie. What are the cost ramifications of this transition?
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. This is Joe again here. So it kind of depends on the licenses. If you want to get really specific to your own situation, we can definitely take this online. However, if you have an existing perpetual license on maintenance subscription, it will be much more cost effective to keep that current, simply because the maintenance is about 1/3 of the cost of the desktop. Starting fresh, if you were going to start today and consider Perpetual or Desktop, there's a decision to be made because a Perpetual requires more of an investment up front and then lower recurring costs. Desktop, it's the same fee every year. So, if you already have maintenance, definitely keep those current because it will save you a good amount of money. If you're starting fresh today, call your rep, call me, call Rich, call anybody at Kativ really to get the best situation for you specifically. We'll be more than happy to help you out with that.
Yeah, this is Anthony. Like Joe said, these are rough kind of numbers he's sharing. It really depends on the type of license you're purchasing. But just to give you some guidance, I mean, anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 years, depending on the type of license you have, is when you'll start benefiting from purchasing, from a financial standpoint, benefit from purchasing a perpetual license. Okay, past that time frame, you start to pay more for desktop subscription. So really depends on what the life of these users looks like, what your plans are as you go forward on which option's better. And as Andy alluded to before, aside from the financial benefit, a lot of our customers already have perpetual licenses, and adding licenses in that format so everything's the same, maintained at the same rate, makes sense for customers, and they're more comfortable with that. So as Joe said, if you want to look at your specific example, we'd be happy to do that. Definitely call us right after.
Great, thanks, Anthony. Mark had a similar question, and I don't know if we addressed your questions already, Mark, but if Anthony or anyone can follow up with this, what is the cost difference between a suite subscription versus paying maintenance?
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and thank you, Mark. This is Joe again. So I want to stress that it does vary depending on which type of license. If you want specific answers, let's take this offline. But in general, the desktop subscription is 2.5 to 3 times more per year than maintenance subscription.
Great, Joe. And yeah, we'll definitely follow up with you, Mark, for the specific licensing answers. Have a question from Rusty. Does this change affect all Autodesk products, specifically AutoCAD LT?
Yeah, this is Rich. This does affect all Autodesk products, so AutoCAD LT would be included in that. And then just to reiterate what Anthony was saying, for standalone products, single products like a standalone AutoCAD or AutoCAD LT, this change goes into effect February 1st. For anything included in the suite, the suite product as a whole, you have until August.
Great, thanks, Rich. Question came in from Elizabeth. How is the network licensing model compared to existing GETR?
So this is Rich again. The GETR is a benefit of being on maintenance, so you can use that license outside of the country in which it was purchased. Networking goes along with that, so if you have an organization that has offices in multiple countries, you have the right to use that software in those various countries through your maintenance subscription. It doesn't necessarily replace, but it's kind of an addition to networking or the GETR.
Yeah, it's a good question, Elizabeth. So I believe Elizabeth may have an GETR today. If you went to a desktop subscription model, there will be the same option to add those additional rights for a GETR. So a GETR gives you global extraterritorial rights. So those of you that don't know, in your Autodesk license agreement, when you buy a license in the U.S., you're authorized to use that license only in the U.S. You cannot buy a license in the U.S. and send it to somebody in Japan, as an example, or the U.K. If you want to buy licenses in the U.S. and share them with people all over the world, you pay an additional fee for these global extraterritorial rights, which I believe Elizabeth has today with her perpetual licenses. That option will continue to exist as long as you maintain your perpetual licenses. And if you start a new GETR past these dates we're talking about, it will also exist for desktop subscription licenses. So there'll really be no change there for you.
Thanks, Anthony. I hope that clears up the question for you, Elizabeth. Another question came in from Jeffrey. Within the Autodesk software, my license information is list the license type as standalone-locked, and it also lists the license model as standard. Is this a perpetual license, and is there action that I need to take?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Jeffrey. This is Joe here again. So that is that's a good question. I would really need to take a look at your specific license to see exactly what it is. I'm happy to follow up with you offline after this webcast to verify your serial number and to see exactly where you are at as far as a perpetual or desktop, whether you can get back on maintenance or whether or not you have to renew a desktop term license. So yeah, great question. I'll follow up with you after this and get an answer over to you.
Yeah, what I do know, guys, is a standalone part of that, just so everyone knows, if you look up your license and you see standalone, that means that it's not a network license. Okay, so it's for one user. It's not networked. If you saw networked, then it would be, you know, a network license, obviously. But Joe will make sure that you have all the other information you need on your license.
Great. Another question that came in from Stephen. So Stephen wants to confirm, with a perpetual license, we will still continue to receive new product updates, correct?
Yeah, great question, Stephen. Absolutely. So as long as you have a maintenance plan, you'll continue to receive those updates. That's not going to go away. You just need to make sure moving forward that you renew your maintenance on time or early, since there is no grace period for us. Once it expires, and you're locked into the latest version that it expired with. So it's absolutely important to make sure that that maintenance is renewed on time. If that's the case, you'll continue to receive updates indefinitely. Autodesk has no plan on changing or discontinuing the maintenance plan at this time.
Thanks, Joe. Another question that came in from Greg. Does the latest perpetual license for the product design suite allow for a license to be installed on up to 2 desktops at the same time?
This is Rich. Greg, that's a great question. The perpetual license allows the software to be installed on up to 2 machines for non-concurrent use. So it's designed so that you could have it installed, say, on your machine in your office, as well as on a laptop that you take home or on a computer at home. So that way you still have access to the software, but again, the key thing there is non-concurrent use.
And one thing to add to that too is that's a benefit you get with maintenance subscriptions. So if you just bought a license on its own or you don't have a maintenance plan, then you don't necessarily have those rights because they are part of the maintenance package, the benefits of maintenance subscription.
All right, thanks. I do have a similar question from Lee, but let's clarify this for Lee. So Lee asks, I want to be absolutely clear on what happens if you have a perpetual license and do not renew the subscription. You stated that the license ends. My understanding is yes, some subscription-based benefit will end and you will not get any future software updates, but the license itself for the software as is never ends. Is that correct?
Yeah, great question, Lee. This is Joe here again. That's absolutely right. So you are not going. The license is never going to expire. You know, the benefits associated with getting new versions, support, additional licensing rights, those will not continue if you do not have maintenance. However, let's say you didn't renew the maintenance and 2016 right now is the most current version. You will be able to use 2016 until your hardware can no longer support it. It's yours to keep.
Yeah, so this is Anthony. That's right. You can run it as long as you have hardware to run the software. And then, so I think Joe answered the first part of the question completely. After, let's say, fast forward 3 years from now, you decide you do want to get back current. The only option that will exist will be to buy a new desktop subscription. Okay, so you'll basically give up, or your perpetual licenses will not be used as a credit or anything like that. You're just simply buying a new license of desktop subscription.
Great, thanks. I have a question that came from Adriana, but I think this might be better off offline, but I'm going to ask it out loud anyway. Honeywell have a software license agreement with Autodesk that is expiring in 2017. How will this new change affect us?
Yeah, so it's, I know you, Adriana, have maintenance subscription on most of your licenses at least. It should not be affected by that at all. They'll extend that GETR when the 2017 when the expiration date comes around. You'll be able to continue on that. You won't have to shift to the new model since you are on maintenance. You just need to make sure that you do that before it expires.
Yeah, that's really the main thing, Adriana, is you just want to continue. Those of you on maintenance subscription just want to continue to renew on time. If you don't, going back to the previous question, you'll be able to continue to use your software. It just will not be upgradable, and if you want to bring it current, you'll have to buy the desktop subscription. So, Adriana, you're fine. Just make sure you renew it before your expire date in 2017.
All right. This question comes in from Joe. This is more for Autodesk, but I guess we'll attempt our best to address it. Is this licensing change all about Autodesk optimizing the revenue stream?
Yeah, good. That's a good question, and I will. And I wanted to actually say this earlier. I talked to Autodesk before this, and any of you that have questions directed at Autodesk, I'd like to take any of those questions, like this one. And what we'll do, Andy, what I'd like to do is gather those. Let's ask Autodesk. Get an answer directly from Autodesk, and we'll follow up with everyone who's attended, not just this one, but past events, and let's make sure we get the answers out. So rather than me try to answer that, which I can, I'd like to get the answer directly from Autodesk and share that with you.
All right, sounds good, Anthony. We will definitely do that. Another question that came in, and thank you everyone, by the way, for answering, submitting your questions. These are very useful for the whole community. Question came in from Larry. If I purchase a 1-year subscription, use it for the year, and have all my settings, my environment the way I like it, then my subscription ends. 6 months later, I buy another subscription. Are my settings saved, or am I starting over fresh again?
This is Rich. Larry, that's a great question. We'd have to take a closer look at that. If you have exported your settings beforehand, if you knew you were going to let the subscription lapse and you had exported that, then it would be very easy to import that into your AutoCAD once you get started again. If the subscription lapses and you have not exported those settings, it's going to be a little more difficult for us to get access to that. So again, that's a great question. If you're planning to only need to use the software for certain periods of time, I would recommend, as you get close to the end of that time period, just export those settings so when you start it up again, it's really easy to have them at hand.
You can tell that Rich handles a lot of support. Nice answer, Rich. Thanks. Question that kind of a follow-up from a previous question that we have, and this is from Steve. So the statement, hardware that runs the software, does that mean that you cannot transfer the perpetual license to a newer hardware?
Steve, this is Rich again. Yes, you can transfer your software to new hardware. When I said it's allowed to be on 2 machines for non-concurrent use, that doesn't mean you can't install it somewhere else. You just have to deactivate the software on one of those machines.
And yeah, I wanted to add to that a little bit, Steve. You can definitely transfer it. You have the rights to do so, but you're not going to be able to install an AutoCAD 2008 on a Windows 10 machine. So there are some limitations to what the older software can handle, which is why it's a good idea to always have the current version accessible to you. That way, when a new operating system comes out, you know for sure it'll be compatible with that.
All right, and on that same line, Joe, can you just talk a little bit about perpetual license maintenance benefits Can you outline some of the benefits?
Yeah, definitely. So perpetual license maintenance benefits include you always get the software updates, which is one of the biggest things. You never have to buy a new license as long as you have a maintenance plan that's in place. You get additional licensing rights. What that means is you have the right to install that license on multiple machines just as long as they're not used concurrently. You have previous version use. So, a new release comes out. Not every company likes to upgrade every single year, so they can run previous versions of software. In addition to that, let's say your company, your organization is running 2015 right now. The only thing that we or Autodesk can sell you is the latest version, which is 2016. However, you can go back and run that 2015 version. That is another benefit of maintenance. You get email support from Autodesk. So if there's any questions, anything that you have that's not working correctly, you can always contact Autodesk directly to get those questions answered. In addition to that, recently Autodesk has added some cloud benefits into the maintenance subscription package. So every user that has access to the license and their maintenance subscription has an Autodesk account where they can manage their license in one location. They also have cloud benefits including 25 gigabytes of cloud storage, rendering, cloud credits, and there's even additional software tools like Fusion 360 is one that is cloud-based that comes with the maintenance subscription for certain products. There's other tools like that come with, say, a building design suite. Energy analysis for Revit is one of them. So there's additional tools as well. If you have any questions about everything that you have included with your maintenance subscription, it is a little specific to which license you own. I'm more than happy to answer any of those questions offline on an individual basis.
Great, thanks, Joe. That's some very useful information. We have a follow-up question from Stephen. The previous question that we answered regarding installing software on two machines but you cannot use them concurrently. Question from Stephen is, can we do that with a desktop subscription-based license as well?
You can do that, Stephen. It's actually even a little bit more flexible than that. You can have them installed on multiple machines. You simply just need to log into the software in order for it to run. So there's not necessarily a limit on the number of installs. The login, when you log in, it makes sure that no one else is logged in, and it'll allow you to log into the software and use it. However, if someone else is logged into the software, it will not give you access because it'll prevent you from running them concurrently and stepping out of compliance.
Great, thanks. I think that's all the questions that we have today. I do want to remind everyone that if you have additional questions, please feel free to call us, email us. The time is very short. We have less than 2 weeks left before the Feb 1 deadline. So if you have any questions at all, make sure you contact us. We want to make sure to have plenty of time to help you, get up to date and be fully prepared for the change here. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Anthony to close.
Yeah, no, I think you wrapped it up well, Andy. Thanks for all the questions. It was good interaction. We'll definitely follow up. There was one question pointed at Autodesk on this session. There were a couple on the last one. So we'll get the answers directly from Autodesk, and we'll get an email out to everyone who attended and make sure you hear directly from them what those answers are. So thank you again for attending. Definitely call us to clarify your specific needs, and don't be shy about doing that, whether it's just licensing or support usage. We have our Lifeline team here to help you. So feel free to reach out, and we'll look forward to talking to all of you. Thank you again.